right now it's actually Sunday evening, and Bond is sitting together here with me, and we recently have been throwing a few books back and forth with each other, and you threw one my way a couple weeks ago, and I can't stop telling people about it. It's a book called Beyond the Seventh Gate, and part of it, what made it such a wild book was a lot of times, you know, we come across mythological or haunted, paranormal sort of books regarding Pennsylvania, and we love them all. But the thing you told me about this book in particular, there were two things that made it particularly special. And it was the fact that, one, it only concerns itself with cryptid sightings in 3 of Pennsylvania's counties, which is getting really niche. But also, it's really well written. And being somebody who was, in the English department and a linguistics major, I get pretty critical about these things, but it's just a well-written book. But Brendan brought it in today, and we wanted to kind of talk about, not the book per se, and we should probably give the author a plug as well, but also just kind of some of the thoughts that you had while reading it. So I'll throw it over to you, Brendan.
Yeah, so the book, like I said, is called Beyond the Seventh Gate by A.E. Hoskin, but the main writer is Timothy Renner. I originally heard about the book on another podcast that I frequent, and books sound really interesting because, like you said, Nick, it only concerns itself with Adams, York, and Lancaster counties. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, wow, that is extremely specific.
Right.
It's not like, oh, here's some spooky stories from around Pennsylvania over the last 100 years. It's very, very specific. And again, very, very well written. Because, again, we've both read other books by prominent writers that have done, PA folklore and history that have had maybe really good information, but were certainly not well written by any measure.
I'm reminded specifically about another book on Pennsylvania cryptid sightings, which was a great book because of all the stories and the breadth of what it covers, but it was just so poorly edited, which even you came in and you're like, you're going to love this book. These drawings inside are so crude, and but I love it, and I kind of want to offer a guy like, hey, you need an editor. Give me a call. You don't have to pay me anything. Just let me, because there's so much more there, and that's what I thought that when you're talking about cryptid stuff or folklore or history, especially weird history, you don't need a ton of exposition. The stories usually speak for themselves, but I think putting them in context is important. I think that's what this Timothy Renner did so well. You said there's something more. Putting it in context and really the familiarity, the comfort that a lot of a great ghost story is a really comforting thing. And it sounds weird to say because a lot of people are very terrified of it. It's like a familiar hallway that you're going down. A lot of them follow. There's a very strong archetype that they go through. And when you're in the mood, as I often am, those really just are a very comforting thing. And I think part of it is we look for mystery. We have a desire to have the unknown, the unsolved sort of thing. That is, when we were speaking earlier before we threw the microphone on, you had said something about there are these little mysteries. There are these hidden stories that we find ourselves in the midst of. And a lot of times we have really mundane explanations for these things that are around us, but we can't find that information. And so in absence of that information, we create these mythologies around it. Yeah.
And where that thought kind of originally came to me from when speaking about this book was one of the stories in here called about a creature called the Hidebehind. And for those of you not familiar with the Hidebehind, which we weren't until this book showed it to us.
I don't know if more people in the York area are.
That's kind of how he made it sound. Well, he made it sound that it's a thing. It's a native thing across Pennsylvania. But just the real quick version of it is it's a creature that follows people in the woods, and if you look at it, then it comes and takes you. Like
right.
if you don't look at it, it's not a problem.
And when they spoke about the context of
mm-hmm.
the story with regard to the American Indian
mm-hmm.
tribes like the Lenape,
mm-hmm.
who were in that region, they specifically said like when they would be in parties traveling, mm-hmm. they would put the bravest person not up front,
mm-hmm.
but in the back, because that would be the person that would know that thing is there, but yet not look.
They would actually have the fortitude to not succumb to that temptation to look at it.
Right.
Which is a really just cool story. It's a cool story, and what it reminded me of was, and this is going to be a little bit of a jump, but you know how we talked about things that do have mundane explanations, and oftentimes folk tales or ghost stories are kind of cautionary tales.
Right.
One of the things that I've heard is that whenever wolves are hunting, they usually look for stragglers.
Right. They always say the predator, like when they are hunting pack animals like lions, they'll look for the weakest, the ill.
Yeah. So it makes me kind of think that maybe this tradition. This is with zero research, and me not speaking as an expert, obviously, but like maybe it's one of those things where the story was started to be circulated, as a safety precaution. Like, okay, we need to put the most observant and the bravest people in the back because there's wolves, there's mountain lions, like.
Well, you could also think of it in another term, like, excuse me, like, I was thinking as I was reading this mm-hmm. story, like, okay, if that was their thinking, like, what are the rules of this wood sprite, this sort of merman of the wood? Yeah. Because anybody could turn around and look. It doesn't, people.
Yeah, and that's
so would it take like the third person in line? It's very specific about how a person queues up.
Exactly, and that's what makes me think there's a ritual involved to like how people should move in line through the woods. And,
so here's where I get at though.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, stories serve a purpose. Of course, mm-hmm. there's the hook. Two kids are in a car making out, doing things their parents wouldn't find mm-hmm. very good. So this folk tale emerges of the insane criminal with a hook for a hand scratching
the car.
Well, it wasn't a story that originated from any truth per mm-hmm. se, but it was a story created to keep mm-hmm. people from doing that thing. I wonder that looks at these stories and like as a punishment of some sort, or a preventative sort of thing towards a preventative measure, exactly, mm-hmm. against negative things, or what are perceived by people in power as being negative things to parents. But let me turn it around and say, mm-hmm. maybe this was a way that the thinking or the purpose of the story was somebody who lacked confidence,
mm-hmm.
or somebody that was shaken up. You can reinstill it by saying, hey, we're putting you in the back because of this. We need you. That sort of thing.
Yeah, it just I don't know. Like that's like those are the kind of thoughts that like I believe are invoked by these kind of stories when we start to think about like where they came from and why they're around. And that's like just this Hidebehind story I just thought was really really interesting, and that really got me thinking about like other like we like to think of ourselves as trying to find as much PA folklore and history as we can, and I think we look for that actively daily, and there's still so much that we don't know about,
right,
and that kind of leads me into this idea of like the hidden histories of Pennsylvania, like the things that seem mysterious that may be mundane.
Well, you know what, and here's a perfect time to segue into this. Mm-hmm. One of the things we talked about bringing up mm-hmm. is the Fountain of Youth. So I think I'll kind of throw this out because mm-hmm. we have a circle of friends who we've hung out with, associated with since, middle school essentially, and now we're getting up there in years, mm-hmm. young by any means, but certainly not children anymore. Mm-hmm. But I remember finding this place. Mm-hmm. And then recently, we had searched for information on it, but it was only recently that you actually found the beginning and the end of this. And so there was a late winter morning, a friend of mine, Jared, and we had gotten in his car and we went for a long drive, which is what we often did. But this time, we were looking for something specific. We were looking for Blue Mist Road, which is documented in a lot of books, particularly in the Pittsburgh region or pertaining to ghost stories of the Pittsburgh region. It's in the North Park area of Pittsburgh metropolitan region. And it's been covered in Weird Pennsylvania and other such books. Regardless, he had heard some stories. I had always heard some stories. He had spoken to a friend who had some leads on it.
That's not always it. There's always a friend who knows a guy.
Well, we couldn't find the road that we were supposed to find, but we're driving down. It's late winter. There's not a lot of people in North Park, and the trees are all dead. And I'm looking out the passenger side, and I notice what looks like a little, sort of like a temple sort of structure. Like I saw this doorway in the side of the hillside. And so I said, well, we're going to explore this, because what is this mystery upon us? Yeah. So we go there, and it's a spring house. Now, we've found a few of these in the woods before. Oftentimes, especially on old highways, like on Route 30, once you get out to the Latrobe area, at the bottom of every hill there's a spring. And this was because when that road was built, like a proper spring house, not just a spring, but a proper spring house, that's because when that road was built, you'd have to be topping your radiator off before every hill. And even today, I've had a car nearly overheat going up like Sidling Hill and whatnot. So, okay, well, it's a spring, but on top, there's this big stone, and into it was carved Fountain of Youth. This is just laying in the dirt amongst the dead leaves and the patches of snow that remained. And okay, well, this is a big mystery we have. Now, at the time,
there's no plaque. There's no anyone familiar with Pennsylvania knows like the blue placards on the side of the road.
Right, and we talked about those a lot with the Shoemaker episode and everything.
This had none of that.
No, there's none of that. There's no trail leading to it. There's nothing. There's no turn off on the roadside. So we're looking at the park maps and nothing about it. Read some of the park history. Couldn't find anything about it. So I had shown you. I had shown a few other friends. Basically, anybody I would ever go to the park with, I would show them this place, and we'd all wonder about it. And the general. One of the things I was happy about, and you'll reveal to us the truth about the place itself momentarily, but one of the things I was really happy about was we didn't get really crazy with the fantasy because...
Yeah. There was a mysterious element to it because it was so ornate and it looked important, you know?
I think that's a really good way to put it. It looked important. It looked like, and that was the thing that upset me, it was such an intentional thing. It was, somebody spent some time on it. It was ornate, as you said, but yet it was as if everybody decided like we can't mention this anymore. And so we had all kind of thought, like, okay, in the very earliest days of the park, which we figured would have been in the Gilded Age, when city parks, large swaths of wildlands were being set aside, we had always assumed that, okay, this was a spring house, and, well, the water must be contaminated. I'm pretty sure there's a big golf course right on the hill above it, so that golf course probably went in the 20s or 30s, and that's why the spring. But then the conversation, well, why didn't they just block it off too? Like, why didn't they seal it? So that was kind of the conversation. That was the story we had created.
Because the door was still open, and there was still a hole at the back.
Right, you walk into the door, and it was a small room, much like about the size of the room we're sitting in now. And then there was a little, like just a small square opening.
And it was, and the reason, and again, because it looked so purposeful and it looked like it was so nice at one point, I think that's what drove the mystery for us, because we were like,
and there were no signs. There were no signs saying like contaminated water. Or...
like you figure if it was like bad news, like someone would say like.
Bad news.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
there wasn't even. There was no graffiti.
Yeah,
there was.
which is even weirder for North Park, because everything in North Park has graffiti on it.
Well, now granted, this would have been back in 2000.
Yeah.
So maybe that's changed in time since, but
so this is an example of what we're talking about, where you come across things, you're like, okay, we know there's a story here, but it's not readily available. There's no plaque, there's nothing in the park offices, there's just nothing. And so you end up making up your own stories, kind of thing.
Right, and I would say you're right. We're trying to take educated guesses and sort this out.
Yeah, and what we ended up finding out was that it was a spring that was built in 1938, which was a little later than what I think I initially expected. And it was actually...
Yeah, because we found out, too, that the park itself wasn't designated a park until, 1931?
Yeah, it was either 29 or 31, something like that, yeah. But it was not... I thought it was going to be older than that, but I guess that tends to happen. But we were correct about the fact that it was closed down for contamination in 1955. But there had been restoration done on it. The main disc that has the
engraving
has an engraving on it was remounted in 2009. So other people know about it.
Right.
Other people found it after we found it. So it's but there's no one.
Well, I wonder too if there wasn't somebody who knew it from before we knew it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because somebody who had some authority had become involved.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
it's very possible someone listening to this right now that's from that area knows way more about the history of it than what we do.
Yeah.
But that's just an example of...
who built it, too? You said it was a WPA.
Yeah, it was WPA, which I couldn't find what that actually stood for, because it wasn't
the Civilian Conservation Corps.
That's who I assumed it was, but so it was definitely something that was built on public land for public use, you know? So it wasn't private. But then, if it's public, why that ornate? Why was it not more utilitarian? I don't know. That's kind of, I don't know. That's interesting to me.
I don't know if I'd put anything into that, but just the same, this is what I'm saying. I was glad that we all talked about this. Mm-hmm. Anytime we were together on a long drive, or anytime friends were together who had been there, mm-hmm. or several of us who had been there and some of us who hadn't, and we'd have to tell them about this mystery.
Yeah.
And all the wildest speculations weren't far off from the mark. We assumed the water was contaminated and it was closed up and just kind of forgotten about, mm-hmm. because it's not off. Bike mm-hmm. trails run by, you
mm-hmm.
see people running along the side of that road, but this is set a bit back from the road.
It is, yeah. But so I think what this kind of leads us into is the idea that there are these hidden things that there is even more hidden history out there in Pennsylvania that we're not even aware of. We don't even know we don't know about.
Time out. By the way, the WPA, mm-hmm. I knew I'd heard that before. The WPA was the Works Progress Administration, renamed in 1939 as the Works Projects Administration, WPA. It was the largest and most ambitious American New Deal agency, employing millions of unskilled people.
That time frame makes sense.
Carry out public works projects, including construction of public buildings and roads. So there we go. That's the WPA.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think in this region, though, the one we hear most about, or that was most active mm-hmm. to my, everything I stumble across, mm-hmm. is the Civilian Conservation Corps.
Exactly.
3C.
Yeah, that's what I usually assume.
C cubed.
Yeah. But so I think what this kind of leads us to is this idea of hidden histories around Pennsylvania that we're not even aware of.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking of some other things we've stumbled across that I want to, I kind of want to talk about a little bit. But also, I don't want to forget to mention that, if you guys out there have anything of this vein, either you've researched yourself and found answers to, let us know, or things that you have tried to research but were unsuccessful, let us know. We want to hear about these kind of things. So one of the examples that I have that I've talked to a few people about, but not often, only because it's such a strange thing, is in 2008 I was with a few friends in college, and we were hiking up in Cook's Forest. And beautiful day, and, we're just out, having fun. And one of the things we came across was this large retaining wall in the middle of the woods that didn't look like it was like an old bridge trestle or anything. But it was a large, it looked like a retaining wall, like old carved stone. And carved into one of the stones was this circular indentation with a picture or a carving, very, very crude carving of the Buddha in a lotus position.
And
some
actually, sorry to interrupt you, on the Facebook page, when we put this episode up, we're going to be putting a picture of that Buddha that Bond had come across in Cook's Forest.
Yeah, and it's one of those, it's very strange because it looks old, and here's the thing, if this isn't a Buddha, and someone else knows what the heck it is, and this is something, again, super mundane that is really easy to explain, please let me know, because I'd love to hear about it. But it's one of those things that we came across it, and we're like, okay, this has to be here for a purpose. Like, this is not just...
Well, it certainly wasn't accidental.
Yeah, it was not accidental. Yeah, but there has to be purpose isn't the right word, but there has to be a story here, and we asked a ranger we saw that day, nothing. No one had any idea.
Wow.
So that doesn't, but I feel like in such a a popular park as Cook's Forest is around here. Someone else has seen this. Someone else knows about it.
Well, and this is one of those things where it seems like this is something that doesn't belong here. But
yeah,
I knew a guy passed away a few years ago. An important guy to me who had grown up in the San Diego Encinitas, more specifically in the Encinitas area of Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the weird things, he was a surfer, and one of the interesting things was there was a temple there to this Swami who had brought a lot of these Eastern sort of practices to America in the 1920s, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, had died in Los Angeles in the late 1920s, I want to say, but brought about meditation. And I'm not going to say too much because I'm not super knowledgeable on the specific topic, but I know that the shrine still exists. I don't know if it's in Encinitas, I'm almost certain, but there's a surfing spot known as Swami's that's mentioned in the Beach Boys song.
Oh, really?
And it's called Swami's in part because of this figure.
Yeah.
But it seems like, if you told me that was going on there in the 60s, 70s, well, okay, sure. Late 60s especially.
Yeah.
Anytime after 1965. Okay, that's not so crazy to me.
Yeah.
But to know that been there in
the
30s,
40s,
the carving, that's incongruous. And this carving too, looking at the picture.
Yeah.
I mean, you had told me, it's not a recent thing. It does not look new by any stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, it is weathered. It looks like there's lichen growing on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where it has, again, more questions than answers.
This is something that does not belong.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's why I'd like to kind of put a bit of a call to action out to our listeners that if you guys have anything like this, we want to look into it, we want to hear about it. Please let us know.
You bring up the Buddha thing. I want to throw out there too. This is something that I had stumbled across while traveling for work, and you and I have further seen when we've been out fly fishing, particularly in Pennsylvania's northern tier, and that is on some creeks like Blue Jay Creeks, some of the tributaries of the Allegheny, way up north out towards Warren, Pennsylvania. There are these rock pagodas built just in the middle of the stream. I mean, somebody waded out there and built these things, and to what purpose, I don't know, but I've seen some of these rock piles in other places, including on my way into Clearfield. In the woods, there's a highway, the first Clearfield exit as you're heading on I-80 eastbound. You get off at the first Clearfield exit, and you're going down a highway, and you look over or rather, let's say you're leaving from Clearfield going onto 80.
Yeah.
You're northbound, and you look over onto your right, and you'll see there's this stone man.
Yeah.
In the woods. If it's summertime, you can't see him because of the foliage.
Yeah.
But you can see him in the fall, you can see him in the winter, and I haven't pulled over to stop and take
I've
photos.
never seen that. It's interesting.
I tried to point it out to you.
Yeah.
We were out that way fishing once, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
But I've seen it before, and so
Yeah.
that's another one of these weird mysteries. I would like to think the two of those things are connected somehow, but...
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, it could be something, again, it could be as simple as there's a group of weird fly fishermen just like us that whenever they're kind of leapfrogging each other in the stream,
they're trying to be the next crop circle people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they're leaving little pagodas to let people know where they waded in at. So it could be something completely innocuous.
But
at the same time, what if it's not? I just want someone to tell me.
Yeah, right. It could be an innocuous thing, but there's too much. It's too deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
Too much effort is being put to build those things. Because some of these are in streams that have a pretty good current and flood and everything, and I've known some of them to be there for at least 2-3 years.
Well, because we saw that one on Minister, and that was a few miles.
That was on Blue Jay Creek.
Blue Jay
Creek.
Okay,
yeah. Minister's very small.
Yeah, Minister's very small, but yeah, it was one of those things. It was just like that's again things that you see and you go, okay, there has to be a story here. That's stuff.
That's up north of Marionville.
Yeah,
Blue Jay Creek is out.
Yeah.
By Sheffield, Pennsylvania. Minister Creek is out like between. It's between there and Tionesta.
Tionesta, yeah. But
up in Forest County.
Mm-hmm. But yes, I mean those are just kind of some of the things that we've been intrigued with lately. That's kind of been keeping us going through this long Pennsylvania winter. I guess
This winter has not even begun.
Yeah.
It never came around, and now that we're entering, mid-March, it looks like it never will.
Yeah. But yeah, again, so if anyone out there has anything along these lines that they've either successfully been able to research or things they haven't been able to find, please let us know. Again, please stop over at the Facebook page at Dr. Pennsylvania, or again, you can email us at drpennsylvania@gmail.com. And this is about it. Anything else, Nick?
No, nothing else I can think of. It's a Sunday evening. I wish it were drearier because I feel like these conversations are always a bit more direct and comfortable when they are.
Exactly, right?
But that's it for this week then, eh?
Yep.
All right, bye.